Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. Excuse me. We are in the Philosophical Midwifery book, which is, of course, the book on the activity, how to understand the stages, the activity, the skill, the art of how to remove human problems. Now, we all have human problems, a certain class of human problem that repeats, that blinds us from learning, from going from belief to understanding, that blocks us from our most important goals, that keeps us stuck in a loop. And is the nature of the root cause of the human problems that we see playing out globally. Because when we have an opportunity to play out our idea of knowingness with impunity, such as a political or a spiritual leader, they end up repeating this same specific problem, only not directing it to themselves, but directing it to others. So, isn't that interesting? We are living in a world stuck in a barbaric age. A barbaric age because specifically that kind of false belief is a kind of tribe clan loyalty belief. Blind loyalty to tribe clan leader. Now, of course, we can see it play out most significantly with Nazis and Trump people and right-wingers and things like that. But we all have it. It's a human thing. Part of being human is developing a certain class of false belief that we call a pathologos. Now, our job is to learn what is needed to remove it. Now, it's not easy because one of the features of the pathologos is we think it's real. It's what we're used to, it seems normal, and it even seems good. Which is fascinating because the other part of the human art of understanding, philodianoia, the love of understanding, is philosophy, which is the process through which we actually gain understanding of what is truly good and what is truly real. So we cannot say that our problems are caused by a distorted reflection of what we are truly seeking in the real. In other words, our soul has what we need for our greatest excellence, but having those conditions for reaching our greatest excellence also means we are susceptible to the image of those things. Meaning we have in place what we need for our highest goals, our enlightenment, the progression through evolution, to know the true nature of the good self and reality, but having that capability within us means we have the capability to be stuck on the false images of those things. So that's the difference between the logos, the path of understanding to the truth, and the pathologos, the usurper of the throne. We can't do anything good unless we are doing the activity that removes the false and the activity that helps us master the good, the true. So that's where we are as a human species because we are animals. But this is fascinating because we can understand the nature of evolution. Evolution isn't about humans growing another set of hands to make it easier for us to pick more bananas. Our next stage of evolution is through the movement from belief-based thinking, cognition, how we apprehend and how we function, to understanding. It's a cognitive movement. But also, as we are learning, that is the educational process, or the process of learning itself. It's evolution and it's learning. To learn anything, we recognize you need to understand the thing. If you want to be a doctor, you need to understand the body. You want to be a mechanic, you need to understand how a car works. We also recognize that there are people out there who will never become a good mechanic or who will never become a doctor because they are racists and prejudiced and sexists and so on. And we all recognize that these are the worst people out there. Even racists and sexists recognize that this is the worst of humanity because they'll start their racist statement by saying, I'm not racist, but... Of course, if you have a leader which seems to say, hey, it's okay, because look at me being openly racist, then people will play out their sadism sometimes and say, yeah, I'm a racist, just like Daddy Trump. But generally speaking, everyone recognizes that these kinds of ways of being are the worst. So what are they? What is it that blocks people from understanding? It's a belief. It's a belief. I believe that women are X, Y, and Z. I believe that black people are X, Y, and Z. So, it keeps us acting barbaric towards ourselves and each other. But it also is the specific thing that blocks us from learning, because learning happens through understanding. You have to understand how the car works. And then you have to verify your understanding and direct experience. Go out and fix a car. Same for flying a plane, same for building a house, same for everything except the two professions that we pretend this doesn't apply to. Kings and spiritual people. For some reason, we are acting fucking stupidly towards our leaders. Hey, they don't have to understand. It's just an opinion or a belief. Whether it be any religion or cult or political tribe or cult. Which is why people often say things like, if I'm streaming on Twitch, and a lot of Twitch channels have the exact same thing. No talking about politics or religion. They never ever say no talking about how to fly a plane. No talking about medicine. No talking about fixing cars. Never, ever. Why? Because we recognize all of these things are open to everyone because they're all based on understanding. And anyone can understand. And if you disagree, well, it's my belief that the carburetor goes there, then somebody who understands would say, oh no, this is where it goes. And the person would say, thank you. Because we don't identify with the false belief of where the carburetor goes. We never say, I'm a carburetor above the spark plugist. And my daddy was above the spark plugist. And my daddy before him was a spark plugist. Never, ever. That would be stupid. You would be seen as having a serious problem. Why are you unable to let go of the spark plug? And that happens sometimes, of course, but we recognize, oh no, it's a psychological issue. It's just, you can just understand where the spark plug goes and you can test it. If you are not able to pass your second year mechanic course, then you need to see the school therapist or something. We all they would recognize that. But for some special reason, we don't apply that to politics, how souls should be organized within society, and religion or spirituality, the nature of the soul and the meaning of life and what goes beyond. Why? Why? It's not because those things can't be understood. We are doing that right here. It's not because you can't verify these things in your own experience. There has been countless people who've had experiences of this or that spiritual state, out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, meditative experiences, so on and so on. Athletes often get into different higher states of being. Why do we say, I'm a Buddhist? I'm a Taoist. I am a Catholic. I am a Protestant. Why do we identify with beliefs? I am a left-wing. I am a MAGA. I am a Nazi. This is my identity. This is myself. It isn't yourself. Yourself can't be a belief. By definition, you can have beliefs, but you wouldn't say, I am my car. You have a car. This is where we are as in our evolutionary process. We have to evolve from savages who can identify with what's false and therefore be fiercely loyal to what's false and not the self, or we can learn. It's the same game, the movement from beliefs into understanding. That's our evolution. That's education. We recognize that. We have the problems we have because people can manipulate other human beings to act harmfully and against their own interests, so long as they are a politician or a spiritual figurehead. Just kings are only able to abuse other people because they said God picked them. The Jews are only able to genocide the Palestinians because they said God picked them. Can you show an understanding? No. It's just belief. Well, then that's fucking terrible. Grow up. Because what we're learning in philosophy is the process of education is also the spiritual process, because what we learn about in the world, so long as we, realize that learning how to manipulate people through business or marketing or banking is terrible, really what we're learning about is, well, what are we most interested in? Beauty, justice, goodness, benefit, the nature of people, the nature of the soul, where we go when we die, where we came from before we were here. This is what we would actually learn about. In fact, a lot of people go into college thinking, finally, I get to learn about this real stuff. And most of them are very, very discouraged to find, oh no, it's just more fucking capitalist lies. Even psychology, we're just going to torture rats in mazes. Even philosophy, it's about a bunch of dumb opinions from people who are wrong about stuff, but is used to justify capitalism or justify imperialism, so on and so on. But what we learn in philosophy is that this movement from belief to understanding is verified in the experience of being. So the fact that we are attracted to beautiful things, even though we've never learnt about it, tells us that there's something in our soul that recognizes it. Same for justice. We don't like it when someone kicks a puppy or the referee gives a blatantly unjust call. We're interested in it. We want to learn about it. We're interested in relationships. We're interested in what's good for ourselves, what's good for our loved ones. All of these things are the aspects of being, or eidos, which is the subject of our inquiry in philosophy. What is the good itself? How do we not just believe it, so we're a racist or a sexist? No, understand it. And not just understand it, verify in a direct experience of beauty itself, justice itself. That is, by definition, what philosophy actually is. Philos Sophia, the love of wisdom. And in the symposium, Socrates calls it a love because if you actually do catch a glimpse or have an experience, the verification through experience of being, it is beauty itself, and therefore, if it's the most beautiful thing by definition, it would awaken the most profound kind of love. So we don't seek wisdom because we think it will get us a good job, or it will make daddy proud, or we'll have the money to manipulate other people. No. We seek beauty because we love it. And we love it because it's also good. And in that experience of beauty itself, we recognize our higher selves. And we're all fundamentally most interested in ourselves. So, the movement from belief to understanding defines evolution, it defines learning, and as that experience of pure being is the enlightenment experience, different depths, of course, so you can say there are different levels of enlightenment, and beyond philosophia, philosophy, there is another level called philophronesis, because there must also be a cause of being. Another way of saying that is, hey, if you experience beauty, what's the self experiencing it? So that's the progression from the love of learning, where you realize, oh heck, what I really love is understanding things. And what causes all of my difficulties and causes me to be a monster to other people is beliefs, particularly beliefs that I identify with. So the love of learning, philomathesis, is the recognition that development is the removal or the discovery and removal of false beliefs and the development of understanding. And that upgrades into the spiritual method, philosophy, when you realize, heck, to understand things, I need to know the cause of them. What are the causes, the preconditions, and the principles that allow for beauty to exist? For me to have mind, to allow me to go through this movement from belief to understanding. Philomathesis to philosophy. Again, through the movement from belief to understanding. So it's the learning method, it's the spiritual method. And then as you go, we recognize, oh heck, to really complete the process of removing our false belief, we have to go all the way. We have to set our highest goal. And to really complete our learning, we have to go all the way to really know the self. So that's the movement from philosophy to philophronesis. Necessary to complete that journey from belief to understanding, making it the purpose or destiny for all intelligent beings that have evolved to the level of language and self-reflection. So it's not just your destiny or my destiny, it's the destiny of all beings. Whether they find themselves on a planet 1,000,000 light years away or 1,000,000 years in the future or in the past, or even in another universe, it's the same thing. Meaning it's open to everyone can share in it, and it is therefore the thing that can unify everyone. So it's the learning process, it's the spiritual process, it's the evolutionary process, and it's that which brings everyone to our ultimate purpose. All four in one. Simply the movement from beliefs to understanding. Isn't that neat? Is it worth doing? Well, that which ties us to our beliefs would say, no, I love my beliefs. I love walking around feeling like I'm better than everyone because I'm a Christian or because I'm a Buddhist. I'm smarter than those dumb Christians because I know more about Buddhism. I like that way it feels. And my mummy was a Buddhist. And if Buddhism is just another belief that prevents our learning, spiritual, evolutionary, and purpose growth, then that means my mummy was wrong. And when she silenced me when I was seeking my understanding, it meant that she wasn't actually loving and caring. She was being a bit of a monster. And I would never say that about my dear mummy. She raised me. That is the nature of a tribal, clan-like loyalty to our first rulers. Played out in society, we see, again, politicians and spiritual figures, priest kings, and our parents are drawn to being parents and acting in that way, in part because, hey, don't we want to be our best? Here's the thing, no one cares about your dumb beliefs. When you go to school, you're not interested in beliefs. You pay money to get understanding. If you listen to a talk, you're not interested in someone's beliefs. You want someone who is an expert in something and you want to understand what they can share with you. Except when it comes to politicians and spiritual figures. Then it's scams. It's just scams, which is how can I play into the beliefs you already carry from your household to manipulate you to get your money, become famous, and so on. So there has to be a power that keeps us from evolving. And that's what we're learning. What is the power that makes it easier to just be a fascist, be a sexist, or whatever belief that you happen to have? Why is it that MAGA people or right-wing people vote for politicians who quite blatantly act against their own interests? And no matter what reason or evidence shows them that this is the case, they are blind to it. And when you try and talk to them with evidence and reason, they get confused because they are seemingly being asked to relate to something that they can't see, a world they can't perceive, which is confusing. And as a result of that confusion, they can lash out, get defensive or aggressive. What is it that blinds us from the movement into understanding? What is it that ties us to our loyalty to beliefs? Preventing learning, evolution, spirituality, and our reaching of our purpose. What is that? And how do we overcome that to be good people? Individually, to fulfill our role as being a living human. Collectively, to live in a society where we can be kind, share, not have to suffer and inflict suffering for personal profit, and as a species, not have to put an end to our species and destroy the very planet we live on. How do we do that? How do we break that loyalty to beliefs so that we can therefore share in understanding together? That's what we're learning to do on this channel, and that's why I have zero people in chat watching live. Now that's, yeah. Occasionally I'll have one or two, and maybe one day those one or two will have their own channel and they will have more viewers and be able to do a better job in asking this the most central, important, necessary question. But for now, it's just me and you, whoever is watching, wherever and whenever you're watching. But it's still the most important thing worth doing. That's not a matter of belief. That's something we can understand for ourselves and verify through our own experience. Speaking of verifying an experience, what we are doing now is we are reading a case study of somebody going through that very process of discovering what blocks them from their own understanding by discovering an unsuspected belief that they have been carrying their whole lives. So, this very thing, we are reading somebody going through it. Let's jump in and have fun. Trying out some new soundboard settings. Let's see if it works.
He better not.
I find that very entertaining.
How about this one?
Too stupid to understand, and also refusing to understand.
Why not both, right?
Or much. Too stupid to understand, and also refusing to understand. Right?
It's coming along very slowly because I'm not good at coding, but it's getting there. Right, Emma?
The more the better.
But this is probably the stupid.
But this is probably the stupidest, craziest example of this little kid-style lying I think I've seen on this channel thus far.
Neat. Well, if the great Aaron Brown is watching it, then we're doing something right. Let's jump in. Okay. Now, I hope you have your coffee. Cheers. So, subject A, we've been going through. So let's do a quick rundown, and we've been pausing to see if we can recognize the stages in the dialectic that we learned in chapter 4. But let's go through where we are so far. Subject A introduces, background of subject A. Single 25-year-old graduate student in political science. She has been exploring her blocks for approximately 2 years before this talk was recorded, and she had no psychotherapeutic experience prior to beginning sessions in philosophical midwifery. Her father was a college graduate and had been a flight instructor in the service. Her mother and sister were housewives and businesswomen, and her brother was a graduate student. 1. Subject A introduces the session with a description of a statistics text that she had been studying, and recalls what she said to herself when she became discouraged. Oh, you've read this before. Just go on, skip it, she recalls. She recalls this occurring when she was picking her faith. She continues to tell herself, you always skip it, and when called on to remember, you don't, adding, no, go back and study it. Why do I have to go through such pain? It's embarrassing to recognize I don't know this stuff. Exploring what would count as an answer to this question, she reaches a conclusion saying, she has to go through this pain because I have to study the problem if I were to say I understand it. Now let's see if I can... Yes, keep going. Returning to this question of why she has to go through such pain, she says simply, because I deserve it. Question further about deserving it, she remarks that since she hasn't studied it before, she deserves and needs to be punished, saying, because I didn't learn it originally. Reflecting on what she has said, she realizes something strange in what she is saying, and sees that if she had learnt it originally, then she would have avoided these difficulties. This reflection leads her to the admission, I feel very discouraged that I hadn't learned it originally. She recognizes these steps in her reasoning fit into a pattern for everything I get into. She tells herself, I don't learn what I set out to learn originally. I don't get into it. She acknowledges that this happens whether she studies it before or not. Yet she blames herself for not knowing it, since she argues, I should have studied this before. When I did have the time, I wasted it. Continuing to reflect in this way, she comes to an apparent solution to this difficulty. She reasons, get through it, you can study afterwards. She reports, however, that this attitude of get through it is present whether she studied it originally or attempts to learn it later. In studying, therefore, she concludes, I have to hurry up. I have to hurry up, otherwise. And the midwife interjects, you might understand it.
We're gonna engage in dishonesty?
You might understand it. Subject A insists, it's a waste of time to understand. Just get through it. There's our understanding being interjected. And from our introduction today, we recognize this understanding is not only learning what she's going through, she's facing a block to learning or understanding. Not only is she blocked from learning, she's blocked from her evolution. She's blocked from the spiritual process, and she's blocked from her highest purpose. Because all of these are involved in understanding, or the movement from belief to understanding. That's why we call philodainoia, the love of understanding, the human quest.
You're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry. So, in studying, therefore she concludes, I have to hurry up. Otherwise, the midwife interjects, you might understand it. Subject A insists, it's a waste of time to understand. Just get through it. And adds that every time she takes a test, she finds out what she hasn't understood. And so she concludes, it's a waste of time. Just get through it. Now that's interesting. I don't know why. She takes a test, she'll find out what she hasn't understood. Does that mean that she thinks tests are just there to prove that she doesn't understand? Or is it a waste of time because she'll find out what she doesn't understand after? I don't know. We'll see. She anticipates, here we go. She anticipates being caught and confronted with partial understanding. Somebody will always catch me on something I didn't see, she says, adding, they'll say, why didn't you see that? Understand it before. Then she recalls a specific occasion when she was in the 8th grade and she had to do a maths assignment. She had to have a maths assignment completed for the following day. She saw she couldn't do it and feared that if the teacher were to discover how little she knew, she would be put back 2 grades. Her solution, I have to bluff. She recalled her mother offering her usual advice. Don't worry about it, her mother would say. You're an average student. She recalls asking her father for help, but knowing that while he could solve the simpler half of the word problems assigned for the homework, he was never able to explain to her how he did them. Hey, welcome. What are we up to tonight? We are exploring what is involved for a human being to go through the movement from beliefs to understanding, which today we reflected on how this movement from belief to understanding is needed in learning. You want to be a mechanic? You want to understand how the engine works. But if you are identified with a belief, such like, I believe that the carburetor must go above the spark plug, then you have to also let go of that belief to understand the truth. We recognize that in things like learning how to fix a car, but there are some kinds of belief people identify with. I am a carburetorist. My daddy was one too, and I refuse to give up that belief. I identify with that belief. That sounds absurd when we talk about fixing a car or building a house or anything else, except for two categories. Our soul, we don't say, I have a belief, a Christian belief. We say, I am a Christian. And politics, I am a Republican. So we don't insist on understanding for politicians and religious folk, which is why every other Twitch stream has or most Twitch streams have the rule, no talking about politics or religion. They never say, no talking about cars or no talking about how to fly a plane. Because everyone knows everyone can share in that because it's understanding. However, as human beings, we are barbarians, savages, cavemen when it comes to what's most important, ourselves and each other. Because we have a clan-like tribal loyalty to certain false beliefs about ourselves, the good and reality, that prevent us moving into understanding. So we can recognize this movement of belief into understanding is not just the method of learning, education, but it's also the spiritual process, because understanding, while also discovering and removing our loyalty to beliefs, is the nature of philosophy. Studying the realm of being, which is the spiritual realm, it's prior to the physical realm, and confirming your understanding in experience. That's the enlightenment experience, or the varieties of enlightenment experiences. So on this channel we read Socrates, and because he is somebody who helps us by showing us that process of understanding applied to the nature of reality itself, making it not a spiritual process, but the spiritual process. The difficulty is, a lot of people say, no, I am a Buddhist, I am a Taoist, I have a blind loyalty to that belief, and I reject understanding. You can't understand the divine. You can't understand the nature of the soul. You can't understand the realm of being. That's not true. That's what we read here. What Socrates has been talking about. That's what philosophy is. Philosophia, the love of wisdom, which is specifically the understanding, or dianoia in Greek, as well as that confirmation and experience, nous or ousia, to turn around and experience self or mind itself. So wisdom is philosophia, love of wisdom. But not only that, you can do that, apply the understanding to that experience and wonder about the causes and principles and conditions needed for being, for enlightenment. In other words, if there is a self having this greatest experience, what is that self? Or what are the causes for experience? This is what Socrates calls the movement from the love of learning, as we talked about, movement from belief to understanding about things in our everyday world, philomathesis, love of learning, to philosophy, the spiritual process, the movement from belief to understanding about the realm of being, and our highest level of evolution, or our purpose, to wonder even about the self that's having that experience. Philophronesis. So if we recognize that the simple movement, not simple, but we can simply understand that the movement from belief to understanding defines learning, education, defines spirituality, defines evolution, because we need to apply this to all of our rulers, all of our leaders, even politics and religion. They need to, like a pilot, demonstrate an understanding, demonstrate an experience, and use that understanding and experience to always and only benefit their subjects. It's corruption if a doctor tries to benefit himself and not his patient, or an architect builds a flimsy house so it will break down and kill the family so they'll buy another house from him. That's corruption and they go to prison. But for some reason, we insist that politics and spirituality is the realm of belief. That's a barbaric way of thinking and a stupid way of thinking, and we are playing out the implications of that now. The Jews genociding the Palestinians, the MAGA right-wing murdering the foreigners, all this, the Crusades, the Dark Ages, a never-ending cycle of bloodshed caused by people refusing to demand understanding and knowing and using it to benefit all, art, from any of their leaders, while themselves not reflecting on why they are loyal to their own false beliefs that they identify with, preventing their own learning, their own movement from belief into understanding. So therefore, this movement from belief to understanding is the model of learning, it's the model of spirituality, it's the model of evolution, and it's our purpose. All of it we can call the love of understanding, philo or philodianoia. So that's the meaning of what we're here for, that's our purpose, and what we are doing now is we are reviewing a philosophical midwife talk, which is the activity of identifying and removing the unsuspected, hidden, false belief we are loyal to and identify with that prevents our understanding. The method of that is philosophical midwifery. We are reading somebody going through it to see what's involved, so we can apply it to ourselves and become not get rid of our savagery, our caveman ignorance, our zombie-like life of terrible injustice. We all have it. It's not just the Nazis. And also so we can learn that the most important art, ourselves, to help ourselves, our loved ones, and our fellow man. So we're learning what it takes to go through it and how to guide someone through it. Now, if I was a betting man, I'd bet that you left halfway through that spiel. which is the difficulty. So, learning how to share this, the most important and necessary thing, that if we don't have it, we suffer individually, collectively, and as a species. Learning how to share that with people is a puzzle I've had for most of my life. But I will keep explaining it and running people through it as much as I can, because it's the right thing to do. It's the truth. Anyway, are you still there? Doesn't look like it. Oh well, let's keep going anyway. Cup of coffee for anybody who is watching this in the future on YouTube.
That's weird that you think that. Imagine people
Changing their positions and improving for the better.
I have to hurry up, she concludes. So I guess this is an example of, it's not a lost cause. This is someone who has been going through these talks for 2 years, so maybe it's just rare to find them. I have to hurry up, otherwise you might understand. It's a waste of time to understand. Just get through it. and adds that every time she takes a test, she finds out what she hasn't understood, and so concludes, it's a waste of time. Just get through it. She anticipates being caught, and confronted with partial understanding. Someone will always catch me. Someone will always catch me on something I didn't see. Which again is the old model. So the barbarian level of our animal evolution as human beings is, instead of actually learning this, the love of understanding and helping people, if I catch them making a mistake, I can make them suffer. The same way my tribe leader made me suffer when I was seeking understanding for myself. Do unto others the same terrible horse shit that was done unto us. That's why when people look at the right-wingers, and by the way, it's the Democrats or the left-wingers too. It's just that the right-wing are more blatant about their cruelty. I'll say, why aren't they helping people? Why are they just doing things that murder children and take away the basic necessities from everyone? Just for like a dozen billionaire families? What? And then they often say, well, it's the cruelty that's the point. Yes, they know they're being cruel. They like it. What else will give them a feeling that they're a member of the tribe? Because beliefs don't have feelings. Understanding can be verified in direct experiences, which has a feeling. You have a feeling when you accomplish something. You fix a car. You heal a puppy with your veterinary understanding. Or spiritually, you awaken to a higher level of being or self or illumination. That comes with different feelings. There's no feelings tied to belief. That's why they send young Christians out to proselytize, because everyone's going to make fun of them. You're a kid. Why are you going door to door knocking? You haven't read the Bible. You don't even know what language the Bible is written in, let alone the various stages of interpretation of the Bible done by political figures. And you don't know how to understand the individuals within the book. Was Paul just as good a person as Mark? No, they were opposites. So why do you take the words of Paul to be of equal value to Mark? You're an idiot. We don't say that, we just slam the door in their face when they knock. Can I tell you about Jesus? Some 18-year-old kid. That feeling of rejection, of being excluded or being talked down to, gives them a feeling that they can tie to their belief. Equally so, crushing others is a feeling. It's sadistic. It's sadism by definition. So this sadism that Trump and Hitler and Putin and all these people, capitalists and billionaires, you got $1 billion, why don't you feed everyone in the world? Why does it have to be bombs on people's heads? Why can't you send drone-guided bananas? Why does it have to be bombs? Because that feeling of cruelty that they're imitating is the point. It gives them a feeling that they can attach to their belief. Anyway, let's get back to the book. She has a bunch of feelings, right? She anticipates being embarrassed. She feels discouraged. Tied to a belief, but we'll wonder and we'll read. Someone will catch me on something I didn't see, and they'll say, why didn't you understand it before? She then recalls a specific occasion when she was in the 8th grade. Right, she had to do a math assignment. She had to have a math assignment completed for the following day. Wait. Oh no. She saw she couldn't do it and fears that if the teacher were to discover how little she knew, she would be put back 2 grades. Her solution? I have to bluff. She recalled her mother offering the usual advice, don't worry about it. You're an average student. And A concludes, so I don't have to understand it. She recalls asking her father for help, but knowing while he could solve the simpler half of the word problems, he'd never be able to explain how he did them. She would watch him, knowing that she wasn't learning, and saying to herself, I'm not going to. Understand it. She recalls asking her father for help, but knowing that while he could solve the simpler half of the word problems assigned for the homework, he was never going to explain to her how he did them. Wait. Read that twice. I'm not going to understand it. After another unsuccessful tutoring session with her father, Papa, she decides the best way to prepare for the maths test would be by memorizing the problems in the text and applying them to the word problems in the test that seemed similar. What's that called? Imitation. Right? If you don't understand, you have to look for a similar situation and imitate the imitation in this new situation. So if you were a mechanic and you never understood why the carburetor went to the spark plug, then someone came in with a different problem with their carburetor, you just go, oh, it's kind of carburetor E. I'm going to do the same thing. It's not going to fix the carburetor this time. Imitation. What we're left with, imitating our parents, imitating the injustice, applying our past solutions to the present. That's the nature of projection. It's being stuck in belief and therefore imitation. So applying them to similar things. Reflecting on these scenes, she remarks, so I used to say, well, I'm not very good at word problems, conclusion. About herself, right? My mother would say, well, I wasn't very good either. And my papa would say, well, I'm not that great either. So she concludes, gee, if they got by, why should I work them out? Ignoring the implications of these remarks, which we all know now because of this great introduction to belief to understanding thing, she insists that she still cannot understand word problems, and when asked for an example of something she has studied and understood, she reports, I don't have anything I recall that I've understood with my dad. She agrees the only thing she learned was to just get through it. And not reflect on it. She then agrees that no one in her family, not even herself, was interested in understanding. Examining the present scene for parallels to the past. Okay, so at 9. We've reached a level of reflection and insight where hopefully, well, excuse me. She's been reflecting on her problem enough to surface a similar state of mind in her past. And through the guided questions the midwife has been guiding her through, she has enough division. Remember, the problem, definition, its demonstration. We're always following the dialectic. That's what understanding is. Defining of the problem, this. Demonstration, a most vivid, intense demonstration in the past. Break that down into divisions. What were the other people around her doing? What were the roles and the significant individuals? Come to some sort of conclusion. Definition, demonstration, division, conclusion. Bring it all together. What's her conclusion? If they got by with that understanding, why should I? I don't have to either. And I'm not going to be able to understand it. And also, I'm not good at word problems. And all of those can also be unified with her possible solution, just get through it. Okay, so now she has a new functioning herself after having gone through these stages. What's her new functioning? A new perception of her past. So what do? Well, take that as the new definition. We're in the third stage now. And function with it. And this is often where modern psychologists end, which is a difficulty that people face because they're like, well, hang on a second, I've just relived this most intense demonstration of the problem. What now? Now I just feel even worse. It just reminded me of how crappy things were. An even better psychotherapist might ask questions about the other people, the divisions, the roles, other people, others to others. But we need to come to a conclusion which requires a reflection on logos. Not just a reflection on any logos, a specific reflection on the ones that we are interested in. Understanding and the self. Because if learning, evolution, spirituality, and purpose is a movement from belief to understanding, it's the self that goes through that. It's not a computer program. That's why every single person is meaningful and valuable. We're all a self. There's something significant about a self going through this. Equally so, the destiny is our highest purpose is to know ourselves. And our problems is when we identify that other belief, not understanding ourselves. That's why it's philodianoia, love of understanding. No. A belief about ourselves, an identification, which means self. Myself is Catholic or non-understanding or an average student. It was an image of self. So we want to look for conclusions made about understanding and belief, or the self, that most psychologists won't recognize the significance of because they haven't gone through it themselves. Again, you have to go through it. It's something about a self going through this. So that synthesis or conclusion can be used in the third stage to tie that past. That's the new definition, a new way of seeing, the new way of defining the past. Now function with it, definition, demonstration, by tying it to the present. That's what we're asking here in number 9. I had to pause for a second to take off my jumper. It is interesting though, considering If human problems are caused by this kind of self-identification and therefore loyalty to belief, preventing us from moving to understanding, who is going to get into this game? Think, oh well, it's spirituality, so spiritual people, like maybe people, not religious people, but spiritual people, people who are interested in Buddhism or meditation or something like that. Are they though? But don't they just get even more, can't it be that often these people become more entrenched? Their Eastern spiritual beliefs become their identity? So that when you say, hey, by the way, do you know that you could understand the way of thinking of Buddhism and how it fits next to Taoism and Hinduism and Platonism? And you have to pick one, you can understand all of them. And understand the difficulties that you face in your meditation, Buddhist meditation. And if so, wouldn't it be neat to add it to your tradition? What do you think they're going to say? My experience when I've suggested things like this, it's usually anger, or what's the word? When you look down on someone, condensation. Condescending? You don't know. Or fear. No, we can't add to our tradition. We have to keep it pure, otherwise it'll be corrupted. We have to keep it the way the Buddha said it. We can't add or improve. That's the worst thing. So if it's the spiritual dudes that can't get into it, who is? Who's this for? Oh, I guess subject A. Hopefully we find out soon. So, examining the present scene for parallels to the past, she was asked then to recall with more detail, the problem of the present day study scene. She recalled for the 30 minutes before getting stuck she had indeed been comprehending the text, but when she reached a part of the text she saw as important reverb's too long. Important She said to herself, okay, you've read this before. Go on, skip it. And then when she would return to it and skip it, then she would return to it and skip it again and again. By then she says, I was picking her face, and that's distracting. She was asked what would happen to the family teaching, the belief about herself, and especially in relation to understanding, happened to the family teaching if she could get through that paragraph. No, it couldn't happen. I mean, well, I could make it through that paragraph and feel good. I would make it through that paragraph and feel good. Again, ignoring what she had said. One of the features to our problem, our human problem, again, loyalty to a false belief about self, specifically in relation to understanding, is we forget things. It wouldn't be much of a block if it didn't block us from learning. If it didn't block us from learning what we need to learn to remove the block. The block has a self-protecting mechanism. Right, Stuffy? Right. Stuffy says it's right. And she's right about everything somehow. Ignoring what she said, she adds she never could understand word problems. She recognizes that her father would only teach her when she came to him in a discouraged state, which was after she tried unsuccessfully to solve her math problems. And we can push the implications. We're not doing that now, of course, but to reflect on the nature of problems that we have and people have, we could push the implication. If that's what she knows about male to female love and care, what would she feel she needs to do to get attention from a boyfriend or a husband? If he would only relate to her positively, provided she's in this state of feeling discouraged. Ever heard a thing called negging? Where some terrible jerks realize, oh, if I put people down, somehow it makes them more interested in me for some reason? So, in a discouraged state when she had tried unsuccessfully to solve her math problems, she cautiously concludes and then backs away from her conclusion, saying they, parents, were never interested in genuinely helping her gain mastery. Another one of those key words. It's not just self and understanding that are words we look for. Mastery is one of those. We want to master our understanding. Comparing this past scene with the present day problem, she concludes that now, when discouraged, she feels obliged to go to talk to somebody about it. Let's keep going. That's where we are. Subject A recalls at some length a recent example of bluffing, and getting caught. So here are the patterns that she saw play out in her that childhood scene, playing out in a recent example. When she offered an idea to her supervisors, it plays out at work. But since she hadn't understood herself, it was easily dismissed. So she was dismissed. She remarks, right after that, I said, well, you couldn't have thought of any ideas yourself. Anyway. See, confirming the belief she is loyal to and identified with. Whose fault was it? Being dismissed by her boss, or because she didn't understand the thing she was trying to present, and so she thought, well, I have to bluff. So she was easily dismissed. Was it his fault, or was this pattern setting herself up for failure? Now, we are learning about a specific instance, but this is universal. All human problems, be it Putin, Netanyahu, Don Trumpy, your mum, your dad, your friend, your partner. This is universal. So, then reflecting, she says that bluffing and getting through it. So here we have a repeating of bluffing and getting through it. Attitude at least avoids the emotional turmoil of understanding. So there is some sort of kind of benefit, kind of role it's serving. because of what happens when she comes up with an idea she thinks she understands. She thinks she understands. I'm scared every time about sharing them with someone else. And so she says, I wipe them, the ideas, out before I even present them or get into them. Now we have the midwife helping us out. Adding in those self-logos terms or these self-ers. We've already got mastery, understanding, the self, the conclusion about herself and understanding, the role of the parents. Here we have ideas. Ideas are important. The ideas are the ideas in being, beauty, justice, goodness, same, other, like, unlike. These are what we apply our understanding dianoia to in that movement from learning to philosophy. So it plays out on the smallest, most easy to see level in her workplace, but also it would play out in the more important activities, philosophy, understanding the nature of ideas themselves. Now, we don't want to suggest that as a midwife, but we are learning, we're seeing the stakes of this game. After discussing how similar this was to those early math scenes, she was asked to, so we have asked her as a midwife, the similarness, the early scenes. She was asked to reflect on the fact that she was understanding her statistics until she reached a key passage. This is us. We're asking. We're not telling. We're not demanding. We're not putting her in a concentration camp or dropping a bomb on her head with a drone. We're asking. This is the new way of being we talked about last time that we need to present for people. It's okay to mock ignorance, so long as we're offering a new way of being that if they see the stakes of their ignorance, they can participate in. Unlike the progressives that are doing a shit job of stopping the fascists. They don't know this. They don't know it. They don't have a good way of being. They're equally barbarians, savages, on the early side of evolution. Because we're animals. We're animals. We're evolving into spirituality, but that involves overcoming our caveman roots, loyalty to caveman tribe leader. Okay? Okay. What do you say, Owen? Don't have Owen on my board anymore. Let's put him back. Where are you, Owen? Here we go.
Wow.
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 Wow. Wow.
So we asked her, hey, by the way, you were understanding your statistics text until you reached a key passage. She insists that she cannot recall further details about this. What is that? That's the amnesia. But after some reflection, she reports that she had recognized that the passage in the text she was skipping over was important in itself because she states, what I had to do was kind of keep in mind that idea to see how it developed. Ooh. Interesting. This is the dialectic, right? Socrates doesn't say, this is justice, or this is virtue in the Meno. He says, this, can you keep this in mind? And then this, that's the dialectic. This point, and then this point, and then this point. Whereas baby-brained savages, sexist and racist, to say, what's the issue? One word, women's, or blacks. That's not thinking. That's stupid. That's going to allow you to be manipulated by these sorts of people. Or people who make use of this to manipulate you. Trump ain't no Christian, but he manipulates the Christians to act against their own interests. So it's important to be able to keep in mind an idea to see how it goes and develops. The consequence of her doing this were explored, and she then saw it would violate... Oh, I just had a brilliant idea. Okay, it would violate the family's just get through it. Just get through it. Advice. Different from understanding, right? That's why it's always a good rule. If someone said, can I give you some advice? You say, what's that over there? And then you run this other way. Can I help you through the process of understanding something that I have also understood myself? Well, absolutely. Can I give you advice? How about hit off? How about no way? How about what the heck? Isn't that just imitation? What's their advice? Just get through it. Advice is tied to a belief from someone else. Subject A then volunteers another present scene. Good for her. When she was upset because she was required by her supervisor to learn something in a short time and discuss it with others. She then went on to explain her conflict, and in doing so, sharply contrasts her idea of understanding with bluffing. Understanding. And bluffing. What does she say about the two? Understanding, it takes time. Relaxation takes time. Right? This is a human activity, which means it's not an all-at-once thing. We experience ourselves through time and space in this dimension, allowing us to philodainoia, love understanding, master understanding. Because we're experiencing time. Relaxation, yeah, keep our cool and not being pressured to get through it. She adds about bluffing, about the bluff. What does she think about bluffing? I get praise for getting through it. The pat on the head from Daddy Trump. I mean, Daddy Putin. I mean, Daddy Adolf. I mean, Daddy boss. I mean, Daddy petty tyrant in charge of your office. I mean, whatever it is. Praise, little pat on the head. I get away with it. Suppose, she was asked by the midwife, suppose you were close to understanding it and then panicked and therefore got into an emotional state because the family teaching is thou shalt not understand. Wow. Ooh. Significant given what we've been talking about today. She finds this interesting and acknowledges that she does panic, saying, I get scared at the implication of what I see. And she recalls that it is at such times that she enters into what she calls fantasy. Fantasy.
The more the better.
When she saw the importance of that section in the statistics text, she recalls she fantasizes about scenes, speculating. Oh, I could go into computers if I understood this. And she was asked by us, the midwife, do you understand? You do understand it, don't you? Is that when the fantasies? Fantasies! Fantasies! Is this when the fantasies begin? Surprised, she admits. That's the part I forgot. Wah wah. Asked to identify at what point the fantasies begin. So we ask her this. At what point the fantasies begin? So we're going for the beginning of the fantasies. Just as in dream analysis, we often look at the beginning of the drama, the opening scene. When we read philosophy, look at the beginning of the paragraph or the beginning of the text, the opening, the setting. When you're speaking of meditation earlier, when you're meditating and you find yourself going off on a fantasy or a tangent that takes you away from your meditation, how does it begin? She begins and reflecting, and an insight occurs to her. Wow. An insight occurs to her. Ooh, that's a dirty green color. Do not like. Ooh, yeah. Move you away. Lovely purple. Insight occurs. Oh, pink. There we go. An insight occurs to her. She said, well, I started fantasizing. I started fantasizing and recognized, that's interesting. The reason I skipped it was because I said, I do see what's in that paragraph. Right, that's that tangent we're looking for. Pathologos can manifest as tangents to when we are doing something well or engaged in something meaningful, including meditation. Yet after seeing this, she had difficulty holding on to it and told herself, as if correcting herself, what does she say? She says, "No, you don't understand that. You didn't read the paragraph. When asked to discuss the implications of that understanding, okay, so we ask her, oh, that's an interesting conclusion or correction or way of talking to yourself as part of that tangent. That began when she was seeing the paragraph. She was asked to discuss the implications, right? Others to other others. Division. What are the implications of this? All right, what's the definition? I am understanding. How does that demonstrate? A fantasy. Right. A fantasy in which she is talking to herself. You didn't understand that. You didn't read the paragraph. What's the implication of that? Division. Of that understanding on the rest of the paragraph, she says, why I didn't need to read it any further because I knew where the paragraph was going. This is a difficulty we also face in philosophy. If you've tried walking someone through a dialectic like Socrates does, as soon as they start to make progress, they'll often jump 5 steps ahead and go to a conclusion and get mad about the conclusion and then start arguing with you or hating you. And you have to say, hey, whoa. You've just gone 5 steps without me. It's not fair. Come back. I'm not there yet. We go hand in hand. It's not a debate, bro. Don't be a debate, bro. Oh, that's a thing. There's a new bumper sticker. Anyone out there who's making merch for this channel? Here's another bumper sticker. It's dialectic. It's not a debate, bro. Don't be a debate, bro. Make sure I get some of the money for the merch. However, she experiences a conflict. Okay. Do I give Jed some of the money for this amazing merch? These coffee mugs that say, it's not a debate, bro. Don't be a debate, bro. It's a conflict. And the answer is yes. All of the money. Some of the money. Most of the money.
I'm cute, like it's cutie pie.
See? Experience a conflict, a quandary, because while she admits an experience of understanding, she also knows she hasn't worked hard enough. And she says to herself, it came too quick.
Too stupid to understand and also refusing to understand. What?
Where's my... It came too quick.
You are a fantastic moron.
No. Why does that not turn on?
I can't walk and chew gum.
No.
Whore.
No.
Whore much.
Okay. This is the problem with having... I wanted a specific drop. It was her saying, that's disgusting. It came too quick, Emma.
What feminists want is, I'm too pure.
No. She experiences... Okay, it came too quick. She hadn't worked hard enough for her experience of understanding. You better check on it, she says. and then adds, confusion starts coming up and I start to get worried. So you can see the drama she's living out within our heads, within her heads, within our heads. It's universal. Or any human being any human being. She reports that she had the insight. Let's give this a different color. And the insight just before she began to fantasize. I read the first 3 lines. I saw where it was going. Okay, so we talk about tracing the fantasy to the opening scene, but we can also look at what comes right before it to trigger the fantasy. The beginning starts with something that plays out in the drama. But right before the fantasy begins, what came before it? An insight. I read the first 3 lines and I saw where it was going. And that made her feel good. Wow, hooray. Made her feel good. But then, she says, I get scared. She states, because I hadn't read the whole paragraph. Confusion and worry set in. So she stops herself and starts all over from the beginning, saying, it's like I deny what I saw, and I have to go back and work through it again. So we're seeing a lot of blocks that come up. We're seeing a lot of the ways blocks can happen. They can block you from beginning. They can block you right after you've had an insight. You can deny what you have seen. Deny what I saw. That's the kind of block. You actually do get understanding and you throw it away, or you reject it, or you deny it. It's a kind of block. Trying to justify herself, she says, because I saw it too soon. I always see things too soon. And I blame myself for seeing. Boo. Boo, I said. That's not. Asked to explain this. This is us doing the asking. She reports that when she feels good about seeing or learning, when she feels good about seeing or learning, I go into fantasies and those aren't real. She daydreams about changing careers. But it ends when she tells herself that she could never do that kind of work. So now we get another important thing. When does it end? What triggers? When does the daydream or fantasy or distraction start? What's the beginning? What's the first self-image? How does it play out? What are the implications of that playing out? And how does it end? We're seeing the parts. However, she is also aware that in her moment of understanding, hooray, moment of understanding, she is successfully doing a kind of work similar to the work she fantasizes about. Reflectively. Reflectively, she concludes that she does it. Look at that color. Reflectively. She concludes that she has to punish herself for even having the fantasy of success and for all it entails, since she also for its implications, since she agrees success is the way to get out of the family. There we go. What's the greatest taboo? Leaving the family. Why? Because it's the loyalty to that family way of being and the relationships with those significant people that keep us tied to the barbaric, disgusting, zombie-like virus of belief, preventing our evolution in learning, in spirituality, and towards the purpose for us being here, understanding. Philodainoia, the mastery of the art of understanding. Why art? Because it benefits. Why mastery? Because we want to use it to benefit. Why understanding? Well, that's the game.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Okay. So she punishes herself because success is the way of getting out of the family. Through questioning, she comes to the idea that she need not call this reflection a fantasy, since it is dealing with the consequences of her own. Okay, so she's reflecting. So we are, through questioning, which is what we are doing, she comes to the idea that she need not call this reflection a fantasy. Because she is dealing with the consequences of her own act of understanding. We just had a new follower. Thank you, Colin Howe. Thank you for following. And why didn't I have a noise? All right, so it's not actually a fantasy. She is actually dealing with the consequences of her own act of understanding. What we're after understanding. This is Philodainoia after all. She recognizes that by labeling it as a fantasy, she then dismisses it. Wow, that's interesting. We can also see how it's important to go through midwifery, even those who have been doing this for a couple of years, like Subject A, and you get familiar with certain things like fantasies and tangents and daydreams. You don't want to incorrectly diagnose your success as a tangent or a fantasy or a pathologos even. Seen that before. Going back to the beginning, the midwife asks her, this is us doing the asking, you and me, why do you go through such pain? Interesting. What's this called? Synthesis and analysis. So through this, we have seen that she has synthesized, as a result of this process, understanding a connection between her past and her present, but also into a conclusion that this isn't a fantasy. If I can actually understand, I will be able to achieve these goals. The implications of that is this success will take me out of the crabs in the crate of my family. I'm able to reach a success Mummy was not able to reach because she can't understand, because she had this problem. Daddy couldn't reach. And this is the nature of the Nazi or conservative or right, whatever you want to call it, MAGA, desire to harm people. because you are leaving the crate. We can't do it. How dare you have success? That's the great taboo. Leaving the tribe. Of ignorance and harm by loyalty to belief. Because what we need for learning and spirituality and development and evolution is understanding. That's what brings success and allows you to master an art that allows you to benefit yourself and others. So no religion and politics in my channel. It's no more belief-based, barbaric ignorance about the nature of how we should live together and the nature of how we relate to our purpose and the divine. Understanding, love it. In fact, that's exactly what we're here for. This will be, so instead of no talk about politics and religion at the dinner table, which allows the fascists to fuck us over because we're not questioning them, will be the opposite. Only talk about politics and spirituality at the table. So that we can move from belief to understanding, verify our understanding and experience, master it and the ideas connected to it, so that we can use it to benefit the subjects and demand that exact way of being for anyone who is a leader within politics or spirituality. Never belief, never ever belief, never ever ever belief, never ever 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 belief. That's savagery and the cause of human problems. And if that's triggering for you to hear, that's exactly why you're a human being. It ain't easy. That's why she's been in this for 2 years and she still has this block to understanding. But it's fun. It's the best game in town. And everyone can play.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
This is the archetype of the hero's journey. We are all Frodos. We are Frodos, each of us. It's a new bumper sticker for my merch store. We are Frodos, each of us. Sounds kind of fun. I don't know. What do you say, Owen? No.
Wow.
That's better. What do you say, Owen's big brother?
Wow.
Owen's little brother?
Wow.
Glad you all agree. So we ask her, hey, why go through such pain? So take this synthesis from a reflection, take it back to the beginning. Can you better understand why? Let's have a look. Why did she say that she had to go through pain? Because pain is... I have this problem. Whenever I want to read, I get discouraged. I start picking my face. I tell me, just skip it. Don't skip it. And then you have a little argument with herself. And then she asks us, why do I have to go through such pain? It's embarrassing to recognize I don't know the stuff. So she has a way of understanding her pain. She has to skip it. She will be embarrassed because she won't know the stuff. She picks her face, and she deserves that pain. She later sees that this is just a loyalty to a family belief. So after all this wonderful, wonderful fun, we ask her again, now do you have a new definition? Synthesis and analysis is others back to self, others back to the first definition. Can you understand the topic in a new way, having gone through this process? Can we see for example, push the implications? Can we see the importance of philosophical midwifery and philodianoia, having gone through the experience of MAGA and capitalism and fascism and Nazism. This definition we started with, politics is just a matter of belief or anything goes, and no one can know the true health and nature of the soul. Same thing for religion. Hey, all religions should be allowed. Don't we have a right to our own religions? Because you can't understand. You don't say that about dentistry. Don't we have a right to call ourselves dentists and start hammering away with a hammer at people's faces? Fuck no. Fuck no. But I like to hammer away at people. But I like my cult. But I like my MAGA hat. Yes, I know, that's the allegiance to what keeps us as savages and barbarians. But having gone through the life in this epoch, this part of history, can we go back to that first definition and see it in a better new way? Equally so, individually. Having gone through this process of midwifery, can we go back and understand why we felt we had to go through such pain? At first, she answers, I'm stuck. That's what I'd say. Then she acknowledges that she has seen some connections. She has seen some connections in purple. She has to acknowledge it. There's no use just saying it. You got to turn. And by the way, did you see this thing? Because they'll dismiss it. Like she's through this process, we might have insights, but we'll quickly throw them away or forget them. So, as a midwife, we usia, get them to reflect and acknowledge that she has seen some connections through the dialogue. In conclusion, she is given an assignment to study the book again. Okay, so again, understanding has to be verified. So anyone who says you can't see God, no, you're not doing philosophy. Philosophy isn't belief, that's barbaric. Remember the Crusades, remember the many genocides, remember etc., etc. Blood-soaked pages of human history under the name of politics through belief or king rules because God says so, and religion itself. Understanding is universal, rational, conforms with experience, conforms with evidence, but is verified through experience. Therefore, she's got a job to do. She has to go out, she's given an assignment to study the book again and see how much of her experience confirms this talk. Understanding isn't the end. If we recognize this, we'll say, hey, only talk about religion and politics at the table. Why? Because there's understanding about the nature of the realm of being, or the eternal, or the divine. If we understand it well enough, we'll have a flash, or, if you're lucky, even deeper experience of bliss. That's the confirmation of being itself. Equally so, if we talk about the understanding of the soul and how we should therefore relate to each other according to the love of understanding, we will experience a utopia. And someone will say, well, I don't believe in utopias. We'll say, I don't give a shit what you believe. It's not about belief. It's about understanding. We understand what a utopia would be, and we get to experience it. Hooray! And the alternative is the destruction of our whole species because of the continuing genocide and exploitation through capitalism, wealth inequality, and fascism. Or blind, ignorant loyalty to false beliefs. Of course, only talk about spirituality and politics through understanding, to remove beliefs, and verify in direct experience. That's evolution, my friends. And similarly, she has been given an assignment to test her understanding, her conclusions, by studying the book and see how much of her experience confirms this talk. In you, in the method section, what the hell? Where's that? You. Oh, is that later on? Let's see. I don't know where you is. We didn't get to you in the method section. The heck is you? Huh? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. We only got to L. M, N, O, P, Q, R, S. No, there's no U. Should we see what he's actually talking about? Let's bring up the last chapter. Here we go. I. Next, so H. The connections between the similarities of the past and the present scenes can now be made, and they can be explored for their meaning. These meanings can be seen as solutions or hypotheses, a new way of understanding why she has pain when she wants to understand. It's not something needed, it's something she applies because of the implications of challenging the family clan belief that thou shalt not understand. She'll have success, she'll be able to have a job that she wants, computer scientist, and that will take her out of the family clan, and whatever affection she gets, pats on the head for being a nice ignorant Nazi. Now, not Nazi specifically, but we can use it to understand why people love to be a Nazi, even though it's objectively terrible in every sense. And while we still have them around, and they're ruling Israel and America and Russia and so on and so on. Okay? After the similarities, okay, now that similarity or that conclusion in I can be seen as a solution or hypothesis that accounts for the failure to achieve success, excellence, mastery, and the individuals are urged to authenticate such hypotheses in their experience as they pursue their goals. So, when you reach I, you have this new levels up of Usia. This is the end of stage 3. You get given a task. Go out and do that thing that you wanted to do with excellence, and see if what you're experiencing confirms what you've seen, and whether you can use these solutions as hypotheses to be able to free yourself from that block and reach further. So he meant I, not you. Now, that might be done on purpose. Because, as we're seeing, we're not giving answers. We don't give answers in midwifery. Because that would be advice. We don't want advice. We want to create the conditions for our understanding. That's the evolution, that's the learning, that's the spirituality, and that's our purpose. Philodynoia. So, that might be a clever way the author has given something slightly off that you would only have recognized it's off if you were applying yourself the way you're supposed to. He said, memorize these previous categories because we're going to refer to them in the text. That's why we spent 4 or 5 episodes reviewing it. But you don't just memorize it by reviewing it, you got to apply it to a structure so you can see it. That's why we spend all that time seeing the dialectic within those 12 categories. And why as we read, we try and see it again. In other words, you would have just completely brushed over you if you weren't doing what you're being asked to do. Understand with mastery. Read the book with excellence, as she is being encouraged to do. Now, this is much more important than a maths book. It's the most important book that a human being can master, by definition, for evolution, spirituality, learning, and purpose, the meaning of life. This life through time. So, we can see it if we're doing it. Clever, hey, isn't he a clever dude? What do you say?
Wow.
You've been a bad little girl and you're getting a vigorous spanking right now?
Come on, Emma. I think he's very clever. And to be... So, confirm your experience, your understanding and experience. And to be partially watchful when the... So partially watchful when the fantasies occur and for their accompanying feelings and attitudes. They're clues for further midwife talks. When does a fantasy come in? What were you doing right before it? Usually having success that challenges the belief and the family clan way of being. Okay. When your fantasies start, what are the feelings, the states of mind, the feelings and attitudes? Because as we've seen in that earlier section, our negative thoughts, distracting fantasies, inappropriate actions, bad feelings are all unified by a state of mind. So feelings and attitudes is another way of saying look for the state of mind that comes up with that fantasy. Disappointment, embarrassment, pain for her. At the end of the session, she reports she feels good enough to go and ask people questions that I don't understand. Hooray. Now, she's also talked about this here. Asking questions, asking questions, asking questions. Yeah, if I remember correctly, this asking other people questions was a part of her pattern. She feels disappointed, she feels she can't understand, so she goes and asks Daddy. Where she gets the love and attention. Well, not real love, of course. Love without understanding is terrible. But this sick idea of love. So, let's see, I could make it through it, feel good. Here we go. Comparing the past scene to the present day problem, she concludes, now, when discouraged, she feels obliged to go to talk to someone about it. Here we go, yeah. Her father would only relate to her when she was discouraged and couldn't understand. Right, so when discouraged, she feels obliged to go to talk to someone about it. Whereas now, she says, I feel good enough to go and ask people questions I don't understand. Is that a good thing? Is she still going to others to see things that she can understand? Or is it actually an upgrade? Because she doesn't have to feel bad to ask questions. She feels good. And maybe she's going to ask people questions that are different from her mummy and daddy, who don't understand but want to pretend they do. Give advice but not really teach. Could be a good thing. You don't understand things, you ask questions so you can learn. But she's good and she feels confident. Maybe. Or maybe this... Why do you go through pain? She answers, when I'm stuck. That's what I'd say. When I'm stuck, I feel pain. Then she's given an assignment to study the book again and be aware when the fantasies come up and the state of mind are connected. He says, I feel good enough to go and ask people. Right, okay. I see. So when she does get stuck, she would go through this internal drama reflecting her childhood where she can't learn. She beats herself up. She doesn't understand something. So she presents a half-hearted or a half-assed proposal to her boss. So she gets shut down and she confirms, yeah, I'm always get caught out and embarrassed. But now she feels good to ask people questions that she doesn't understand to complete her understanding. So it does seem like she has leveled up. When she's not understanding something, she'll talk to someone. And she doesn't feel bad about that. Doesn't feel like she's going to get caught out or shut down or slammed for it. Interesting. Do we talk about this later on in this chapter? Do we review it? Maybe in the next chapter we will review it. So we've got to the end of our first case study or demonstration of what we have been defining as the most important art so far in our reading together. Hooray for us.
Unbelievable sluts.
Okay, good for us. Thank you for the new people who were in the chat today, and thank you for the new follows. I hope you had fun. I hope you were super entertained by my amazingly hilarious soundboard.
Too stupid to understand and also refusing to understand.
Is what she was stuck in until this midwife talk. Saved it. Yeah. So once again, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had fun. I hope you've had something to wonder about in that. I hope maybe you've seen something about your own blocks, your own patterns. And I hope you're getting curious about what it means to be functioning through that greatest of all arts, midwifing a human being through what's needed to see the nature of our beliefs that keep us as savages, so that we can go through the learning, spiritual, evolution, and purpose process. Go through the learning, spiritual, evolution, destiny-seeking process that we're here to go through from belief to understanding. Wow, wow, wow.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Like and subscribe on YouTube, follow on Twitch, join the Discord if you want a notification when we go live, or if you want to share your experiences or meet people to practice this art with. And yeah, thank you once again. And I'll see you in the